Hey there, this is Dennis Anyone with Dennis Hensley. It's a podcast about making things up and making things happen. I love talking to creative people, and I love talking to creative people who help creative people. And that's why my first guest for the new year is my friend, Barbara Deutsch. She is a life and career coach. She bills herself as a personal champion for your career and your life. And she has been a personal champion for me for 14 or 15 years. And I've gone to her as a client, and we've also become friends. And she's been there for me in some really tough times and up times. And I helped edit her first book, Open Up or Shut Up. And we're currently working on her next book. And it's stories from her life. And it's fucking amazing. And I laugh every time I work with her. And she does this thing in her work called the Completion Workshop with her clients. And I took part in it recently. And it's just kind of like a look back at the previous year, and then sort of setting an intention, a strategy for the year going forward. And I thought it might be cool if we did a version of that here on the podcast, so people can take some of the questions that she poses and think about some of the things in relation to their own life, and then maybe get some, gas in the tank for the new year. So we're doing a little version of a completion workshop with Barbara Deutsch, who you can learn more about at thebarbaradeutschapproach.com. But before we get to the interview, I want to let you know that this podcast, Dennis Anyone, is brought to you by me. I do it because I love it. But if you want to support it, you want to help me pay my bills, I would love that. You can go to DennisAnyone.net and leave a tip in my virtual tip jar. So there's also a thing on there called Buy Me a Coffee, which is just what it sounds like. And it always makes my day when someone does that. So thanks in advance. You can also become a subscriber to DNR Studios. I'm part of a group of shows under the Derek and Romaine podcast banner. And for a monthly fee, you get my show early and you get all these other fun queer shows. So check that out at dnrstudios.com. And now here is my session, my completion workshop / therapy session / call me on my bullshit moment with my friend, career and life coach, Barbara Deutsch. Joining me now from Los Angeles, it's my dear friend, Barbara Deutsch. She bills herself as a personal champion for your career and your life. And I can speak from personal experience that you're a fantastic champion. And I'm so excited that you're here to do this for the year-end, beginning of the year moment.
Someone said to me, their experience of me was that I was like a dog on a pant leg, not letting go until I get what I want from you.
Well, I was first referred to you by our mutual friend, Dawn Cummings.
Oh, yeah.
And Dawn says, go to her. She's a white witch. And I don't know what that even means. I don't even know what white has to do with it. I don't know if it's...
I don't either.
But he's like, I just do whatever she says. And so I was finishing a job in New York and coming back to LA, and I started working with you, and you helped me a lot, and we became friends. And you wrote a book a few years ago, and I helped you, called Open Up or Shut Up.
Yes, because of what I do, because I'm in the world of self-help, which really, I don't know, I'm just a fixer.
Right.
With a sense of humor.
Yes. Right?
And people say, you need a book. You've got to write a book. I'm like, I don't write. I don't want to write a book. You need to write a book. It's blah, blah, blah. So getting me to sit down at my desk in my house, no. So I wrote it over time in airports and hotel rooms when I was working out of town.
Right.
And I would write pages and then I would go, that's not a book. Maybe this is a book. And then I did that. And then I even went to Puerto Rico, like Cabo, I think it was, to knuckle down. And
yes.
And I write, that's not a book. I'm going to write a dictionary of everything I say. And then I was so verklempt from all this stuff that I have that I remember, because you're an author.
I am.
And I read your books, and you're a journalist and such brilliant interviewer. I remember we were working together and I said, here's a check and here's a stack of things I wrote. If this is a book, let me know. Yeah. If it is a book, let me know that too, so I can stop telling people I'm writing a book, and it never happens. So you took it and read it, and you said, okay, this is a book. Don't write anymore. You've got plenty. So we're going to edit it together, and yeah. And then that was so much fun, Dennis.
It was fun. I do remember crying multiple times because I was going through it at that time, and this book gave me something to focus on. But I also remember laughing a lot. That was the beginning of Hope to He, which I think we should explain because it's a joke that comes up again and again in our friendship. I was sitting there working with you when I got a text from a guy. So what happened was I had a date with the guy that I liked. And then my birthday was coming up and I invited him and he never showed up. He stood me up and I got the feeling that he was dealing with some substance type stuff after that. And so I just kind of let it go. And then when I was sitting there with you, this is a few weeks or maybe months later, he texted me and it said something like, clarity is on, hope to he. And like, I think he meant to write hope to hear from you soon, but his commitment to me was so shaky that he just got out hope to he. So whenever you and I are working and we're like, I guess it means uncertainty or it's like hope to he.
Hope to he.
But he was like, clarity is on, hope to he. And that's kind of all the message said. And I never heard from him again. But that joke has lived much longer than that.
It really has. And it's come up in so many ways. Now, while we're editing my new book.
Yes.
We're still laughing.
Not crying as much. Have you noticed?
Well, you're not crying anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole time I didn't care if you were crying.
No, as long as we got the words done and figured out.
Yeah. When you were crying, I recall laughing, which is really very nice and compassionate. But now my issues that we're editing is my tenses are so whacked out.
Right.
But I really like the book I'm writing now.
It's a delight. It's really funny.
I'm writing because I want to.
And how would you describe this new book that we're working on?
Well, it's called 20% Stupid, or The Girl Who Said Yes. I started writing it as my story about early trauma, which really I'm so over and I got bored with it. But I started to write vignettes of how many things that I have done from early on. I was told I wasn't smart and I shouldn't go to college. And so I didn't. I went into show business. My first job, because I wasn't smart, they put me in a secretarial track. It was the 50s. So, they did that. So I learned how to type and take shorthand. That's Greg shorthand, if anyone is old enough to know what that is. It's like court stenographer thing.
Right.
Right? And I was living in New Jersey, and a friend of mine, her brother was working as an actuary at CBS in New York. And he said, I can get you an interview with Human Resources at CBS. Columbia and Epic Records is there too, and sports. So I went in, I took the bus, I took the test, and I aced it because I'm good.
Yeah.
My first job was working for all the staff songwriters on the Columbia and Epic label.
Amazing.
And the producers and everything. And it was the late 60s, and let me tell you, it was the best. I mean, other people were finding themselves in Europe and going to college, and I'm like, I'm going to concerts, and musicians and writers and singers are coming into my office, and yeah, that's what happened to me. So this is not a memoir.
Yeah.
I was told I wasn't smart. So this is the cliff notes of me. I just kind of thought, okay. So anything that was offered in front of me, I said, okay. It wasn't a risk to me because I never thought anything would turn out anyway. So I just kept doing things and figuring out what happened and feel the feelings later.
Right.
But my adventures in saying yes are so funny.
Yes, they are.
So wild that I started to write this type of a thing. And I really dig it.
Yeah, and every time you send me a chapter to edit, I'm like, I can't believe this happened. I can't believe you approached it in the same way. There's always some kind of funny twist to it. And your writing voice is wonderful. So people are going to love this book.
Well, good.
You do something with your clients sometimes at the end of the year.
Yeah, I have called it the Famous Completion Creation Workshop.
Ooh, I like that.
I say it's famous.
Yes.
Because it's famous. Because I've been doing this for 35 years.
Nice.
Some version of career coaching. And then when life coaching showed up, I surrendered on, okay, I do career and life coaching, but it's all the same to me. The way I work with people is completely individual. I don't have a technique. My aim is to find out what it is about a person that really works for them. And what are the areas that they don't have that they need to muscle up on?
Right.
Right. And then help design a way forward from that. And it happens at the end of the year, the end of November and beginning of September is like 4 weeks where people can sign up for a 3-hour session in a group.
Right.
And they have to do prep work and I ask the questions.
And if you want, we can do some of the questions and people can listen along and think about it in terms of their own life. And I can share some examples from mine. But it's very helpful to kind of take a step back and look at the year in review.
I just want to give you the whole view of this particular exercise.
Yeah.
The purpose of the exercise is to clean up the year, is to find out what worked and what didn't work, and who are you holding hostage, and what did you lose or gain? And this is in groups, and when people are not allowed to interact when I'm working with one person, because they get to be a witness to other people's trajectory through the year without interfacing with it, and so people feel heard and not judged.
Nice.
And then at the end of that, I acknowledge you. You tell me what you want to be acknowledged for, and I do that. And I do that with everyone. So everyone has listened to what happened. And then take a break, go pee, and then we come back.
There's usually snacks.
There's always snacks.
Yeah, of course.
And if it's in my house, I mean, my therapist, I don't go to therapy anymore because I have peeled enough of the onion. I think there's no onion left. But the therapist said, stop feeding people. I said, I am Jewish.
Why did your therapist say stop feeding people?
Because expense.
Yeah. Right.
I'm like, so I lied to my therapist. Okay, I'm not feeding them anymore. Don't tell her.
I won't.
But then we take a break, and then what happens is really kind of miraculous. So I'll go back and I'll speak to each one individually, and I will say, what do you want to have happen by the end of 2025? And because everyone has heard what everyone has gone through, our goal is to come up with a theme that each person individually can work out of. You come up with a theme that really fits you. And sometimes you have to know, who do you have to be to make that happen?
Right.
We're through it, so it'll make more sense.
I love it. I love the themes, I remember some of my past themes, and when we get to that part, we can talk about them. Because I think we shared a theme one year.
I think we did too.
Yeah.
I love my theme. I just did my theme.
What's your theme?
My theme is I made miracles. I made miracles. Because I want this book edited and ready to go. I also want to generate my business, which is like, I don't feel any possibility that I can do that. Because it's the end of the year. I'm exhausted. I'm like, how many times can they say, you want to do a workshop? I'm like 100 years old already.
So you feel like it'll give you a little juice in the tank.
I want miracles to happen.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, I want to be able to say I made miracles. And but by the way, the theme work on you. You don't have to think about it. But I just want to say one more thing about the theme.
Yeah.
The theme is like an impossible promise. John F. Kennedy had a favorite poet. This is decades and decades ago. And the poet spoke of children playing in a backyard. And there was a red brick wall separating the backyards. And they always wondered what was on the other side. And one day they thought if they took their hats off and threw it over the wall, well, they'd just have to go get it. That's what the theme is. But the theme just works in your body. It'll work on you. So that's my thing. Okay.
I love it. So let's go through, review some of what we did, and we can share these questions with people, and they can kind of think about it in terms of their own lives.
All right. So, Dennis, what worked for you this year?
Well, at the beginning of the year, I had two big anniversaries coming up, the 20th anniversary of the Mismatch Game and the 10th anniversary of this podcast. And I wanted to celebrate and mark those. I wanted to honor them. And I feel like I did. I feel like I did a special 2-part episode of the podcast that I felt had meaning, at least for me. And the Mismatch Game, we did the 20th anniversary show and pulled it off. And it was fun, raised money, and it felt like, okay, I honored those two things. So that was important to me.
You also, how many years have you been doing the Mismatch Game?
20 years.
And how much money have you raised?
I think at this point, probably $230,000-ish. Yeah.
Come on.
That's amazing.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah. And one dirty, filthy card answer at a time. Yeah. Yeah. And it's really meaningful to me. People are like, are you going to stop doing it? I'm like, you can have that thing when you pry it from my cold dead fingers. Like, and I feel the same way about the podcast. I find them both very meaningful and fulfilling. Money was a challenge this past year, but some things that worked for me, I think certain practices that I developed related to my study around the science of happiness, things like meditation helped me a lot. My gratitude list that I keep every day, I think that helped me a lot. Just different things that I think about a lot. Like I've decided that everybody's awesome. And so when I meet people, I just decide up front that they're awesome. Even if it's somebody that approaches you on the street and asks for money or something, I've decided that they're awesome. And I try to engage with people like that. And I've not been burned once. I've not had a bad experience one time. Like I'll be walking into a movie theater and I'm like, I like that guy's shirt. I should say that I like it. No, don't say it. He'll think you're stupid. No, Dennis, say the thing. I don't come up with things out of the blue, but if I feel them, I try to say them. And I do. And they're always nice. They're always nice exchanges. They're lively and they make me feel good. So that's a thing that worked for sure.
What else? Anything else that worked? Or?
Well, I'm a hardcore dream boarder. It's almost like an addiction. Like I'll do one halfway through the year and update it I had to do one when Kamala entered the race because I wanted to do things like that. But the truth is we did a lot of postcards and you came to one of them. So that was a thing that lived. I look at it every day when I'm in the bathroom and I think it resonates. And I put easy things on there along with kind of bigger things. And what happens is like, last year, I went to the post office and I bought some stamps and they had Day of the Dead imagery on it, like for the Mexican holiday or the Day of the Dead. And I was talking to because everyone's awesome, I'm talking to the post office clerk about like I went to Mexico and I love these stamps and I love Mexican food and like I could live on chips and salsa. And she goes, have you been to Salsa and Beer? And it's this restaurant that is within a mile of my house. And I've driven by it, never been to it. So I put that thing on my dream board. It's not that hard to achieve. I could literally walk there. But I decide I'm going to make that happen in the new year. So there was one night a month into the year that me and my friends Danny and Penelope, we decided we're shopping for the Mismatch Game. And I'm like, we're going to go to Salsa and Beer. And it's going to be a dream come true. Because it's a dream. It literally is a dream come true for me. And we love it. And I don't know if we love it because it's really good and unique and the design is quirky and it's just cool, or if I've decided to love it in advance, but it doesn't matter. And so I share it with different people and they're like, oh my gosh, we ate there last night And what I've learned is when you make something a thing, it's more fun. It makes things a thing. You know, it doesn't matter if you're accurate, but my friend Tom Goss, who you know, you actually played his mother in a short film that we all made together 10 years ago. He texted me, he goes, I just shot a video and I took the crew out to Salsa and Beer and everyone loved it. And I got this rush of like, you know,
did that.
Yeah. And it's not because I succeeded in Hollywood. It's because somebody at the post office said a thing and I did a thing and then I did a thing and then I just kept doing that. And that makes, just your life more fun, I think. So I had a lot of those kinds of moments and I feel like it's become like a practice that's automatic, that I don't have to try so hard with some of these things. They've really kind of taken. So I feel like I've learned how to live pretty well in terms of how to move through the world. And one of my mindfulness people often says this, and I wrote it down. Don't wait for something to present as enjoyable. Decide to enjoy it up front. So I think of that whenever I go to a play or a movie or a restaurant, or like, I'm going to enjoy this. And like, I'm excited. No, I'm not waiting for it to be like, this better be good. Like, that's not my vibe. And I always do. Yeah.
Well, that's a real exercise for you that turned into a lifestyle.
I think so. Yeah. It really is a kind of a lifestyle. It's kind of, it didn't take a lot of like, oh, I got to do that. I got to do that. So that worked for me a lot. My theme for the year was do shit. And so I feel like I did a fair amount of shit and that was good. And that worked.
Let's talk about what didn't work.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to get more, clients for my virtual games because that ended up being my main source of income this past year.
Do your listeners know about your game?
They know about the virtual game nights and the box game that they sprang from and how I did that during the pandemic. And a lot of them booked games, which was awesome. Okay. And this past year, I tried a lot of things to get more clients that didn't really seem to work. Like, we'll give a free game away if you post about us on social media, and just different little attempts at things that didn't really move the needle.
Do you know why?
I don't know why, but I don't really see them as failures. I was like, well, we tried that, but
I know that glass is half full person.
Yeah, but I'm not sure why. I just think, I think that part of it is like what the service that I'm offering is really almost exclusively now companies working remotely. Very few people want to do it for their personal life because it reminds me of the pandemic, and that was a thing that we did, and it just doesn't. It's not as we very few clients that are like doing it for fun. I feel like maybe it didn't work because it's not aiming for that corporate client as clearly as some other strategies might work.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Dennis, you know, you and I were an ongoing team here.
Yeah.
But there are some muscles that you want to work on. We're not going to do this now.
Right.
But don't close off. Those games are, I personally feel, well, corporate makes money.
Yeah.
Money, right? But the in-home games that you do for people are groundbreaking. And I believe there is a wave of getting away from internet.
Yeah.
And away from and playing games.
Yeah.
Right? So I think don't limit.
All right. I appreciate that.
This game's going to go.
I really still believe in it. It's always really fun. It always really works. And I still believe in it. One of the cool things is that the company Chobani, the yogurt company, they book me once or twice a month as part of their onboarding process with their new hires. So they do all of the things like that. So I think for the new year, I want to try to find more onboarding opportunities and figure out who at these companies would do that. So
that's a great idea.
Yeah. So I have some strategies.
What else didn't work?
I have this other business, Lifecast, where I interview people about their lives, and I had one client in the new year. Like it didn't really bring me any real business. I've sort of backburnered it, but even if it were on the front burner, I'm not sure how to market it or what to do about it. I think what didn't work is I just didn't make enough money, but I liked all the things I was doing, so I wasn't miserable, or I wasn't unhappy. The year before I was working really hard for Wondery, writing podcasts, and the physical toll of that volume of writing really took a toll on me. So I was in better physical health this year, but I missed that paycheck, and I wasn't really able to replace that spot. But I was physically healthier this year. Let me see, what else didn't work?
Did your dog?
My dog is great now, but at the beginning of the year, he had to have an emergency surgery because we had the pesticide people come, and it was a whole thing. He ended up eating like half his tail when I wasn't there, I know it cost some money. It was not cheap, and but I will tell you, the practice of gratitude that I have helped me through that, because as it was unfolding, like if I took him into the hospital to the surgery place, instead of being super freaked out, part of me was also thinking, what part of this am I grateful for? Because I knew it was going to go on my list at the end of the day because it was the big event. Yeah. So I was able to be like, oh, this person's really nice, or this is more affordable than the place that they would have sent me to. Or like I was always able to find things in real time, which I think helped me not be so overwhelmed by it. But he pulled through it. And I remember saying, if we got through it, I would take him on adventures, because I know he loves adventures. If he sees a suitcase come out, he loses his mind. And I think it's maybe the fear that I'm leaving without him, but also he's been on these things with suitcases and he knows how fun they are. So we did some adventures, and after that bad patch at the beginning, he's been really healthy. So I'm grateful for that. He's a good guy. You know what's weird about my dog? I tell him I'm proud of him a lot, because my dad never told me he was proud of me. So I tell my dog that I'm proud of him.
No,
it feels like a thing, right?
It's the right thing.
I know.
You're leaving a different legacy that you were left.
Yeah. Those words I think are important, right?
Yeah. Important.
Yeah.
All right.
So those are the kinds of some of the things that didn't work for me.
What or who still upsets you? Now, for some people, there's a long list.
Right.
Right? And every year that list gets shorter and shorter when we do this.
Right.
Because if you do the personal work that I feel people ought to do to get through in this life, you kind of reckon with those people or those things, and you either move away from them. It's not a good use of your time.
Right.
And so who or what still upsets you? And it could be yourself.
Yeah. I got upset when I get really angry when I think of politics stuff. I'm sure I'm not super unique in that, but I get really angry. Like if I could, I kind of get like, and I'm just like, dial it down. I don't have any like, I've come to a place with my friends where I just let my friends be who they are. Like I have a friend that has a special relationship with time, and he's often late. And before I'd be like, and now I'm like, I just accept it. I roll with it. I build it in, and I don't let myself get upset over it. But I don't have.
Dennis, I want to make a point of that right now. The term "let it go" is not what you're doing.
Right.
For everybody listening, what you're doing is surrendering to the way that is.
Yeah.
And not fixing it and not doing anything about it. Just you're not letting it go because you know it's going to happen.
Right.
Right. Also, I want to talk about, because you talk about how often you pivot with feelings. Something can trigger you, and then you move into gratitude. But I want to just say to everybody listening that you can't, I would like to pay someone everything I have to get rid of a trigger, but you can't. It's in your body. If there's trauma, it lives in your body, and you can get triggered by something from the past. For sure. But the second you do, you can remember that you have a choice in that moment.
Right.
You feel it because you can't deny it.
Right.
I don't like denial, but then you can take a breath and move on. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that is what you do brilliantly.
Well, thank you.
I don't want people to think that you're not going, oh, well, you feel it. But then what you do with that, you've made a choice to lean on the happy and to understand. I mean, you're not accommodating people's dysfunction. You're just surrendering to the way that it is.
I think so, right? Don't you find as you've gotten older, there's certain friends that are like, they're just going to do their thing that they do. They just are. And I'm probably that way to them. So I think I don't know. I don't think people change that much.
I think people are who they are, and sometimes they can change. Like, I find I'm more patient with my clients now
than you used to be.
The world is so distracting for people, and to get them to acknowledge the way they feel and then move and do something with those feelings. Because sometimes, you're not motivated to just, let me see how I'm going to generate today. You don't generate from motivation unless you're motivated all the time. But there are things that we have to do instead of wait to feel. Can't wait to do it.
You have to do it anyway. Sometimes.
Yeah. All right. Here's another one.
Okay.
What eye-opening concepts do you think you learned this year?
I learned that I feel a call to bring people together. I feel like I naturally do that a lot in my life, but I feel a call to do it in some ways.
Right.
I feel like it's more needed than ever. And I feel a call in that direction. I'm not sure what it's going to look like. Right. I feel a call around sharing these things around the science of happiness and learning more about that and maybe finding avenues in that world. Right. Did I tell you about the class I'm hoping to teach at the Gay and Lesbian Center?
Yes.
I proposed this, and hopefully in the new year I will do a monthly class around happiness and pull all the research together that I can find. And,
Dennis, I want you to pull the research now.
Yeah.
Get it ready like it's going to be a yes. And I want you to make them say yes.
Okay. All right. I like it. That's the thing.
You take the lead on that. And that's going to be that way for a lot of the things.
Yeah.
Up to this year. You can't throw it out there. You have to follow up and follow through until you because your personality, Dennis, is so good and you're so kind and so funny that if you can wear someone down.
I didn't ever think that I could do that, but that's an interesting thing. I didn't think I was like a bulldog in that way.
Well,
maybe.
No, I know this is true. You're a lot like me.
Yeah.
You just wear them out till they say yes.
Yeah. I think they're inclined to say yes. And so hopefully we just get it going because he said, let's revisit it in the new year. But I think it's definitely a thing that can happen. And I'm excited about that idea. Talking about things that kind of upset you or that have you on the hook, there's this thing that I go back to a lot. I think we've talked about this. And it feels like one of my triggers. It feels like one of my things that I'm not going to shake, but I can learn to manage it or whatever, which is this feeling that nothing in the world was meant for me, that I was a mistake because I was I was in terms of my family in the way that people think of that. But I felt it, I felt it in my home. I felt it from my father. And I think that's made me acquiesce when I shouldn't. And it's made me feel like, like if I'm in the theater and somebody comes in with a pair of tickets and they're in my seat, and I have the same ones, instead of going to the usher and trying to work it out, my instinct is to just go to the balcony, or is to get out. And I have to push against that. And I think there's this thing of like, when you're struggling in your career and trying to make things happen and nothing's really lining up, there's this feeling of like, oh, well, nothing's meant for me. I'm the dog from the Monopoly board that got into the risk box, and I'm just trying to make sense over here in Kamchatka or whatever.
All right. I'm not a therapist.
Right.
I have no credentials, but I'm just going to tell you this.
Yes.
That's trauma.
Yes.
Remember, the listeners, I have no
credentials.
That's trauma that you know. So who cares?
Right.
Cut it out. You've done it enough.
Right.
And so all you have to do is just do what I tell you to do.
Right.
Is just do it.
Cut that shit out.
Cut it out.
Yeah.
And I say cut it out because you ad nauseum you've figured it out.
Right. Right. And I was just trying to, if I go to a bad place in my head, it's usually around that area. It really is.
But you've set yourself up with so many brilliant things. All right. This is the acknowledgement part.
All right. So then there's an acknowledgement part. Okay. I like it. Okay.
So, and then I acknowledge people for what happened.
Right.
And what didn't happen. And, I want to acknowledge you for being so honest. And this exercise doesn't work unless you're honest.
Interesting.
And there's no judgments. And if I were doing a group of people, I would not interrupt Dennis and say, just cut it out.
Right.
I would not do that because I know Dennis. I have permission to do that, but I wouldn't do it in a group.
Right.
I would massage it.
You cater the approach to the person, but right. I like a nice cut it out every once in a while because I know it's delivered with love, and sometimes it is just like that thing of like cut it out, Yeah.
No one's judging except you, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes those things are really good props,
right?
Put in front of us, right? I was doing a workshop decades ago, and Sherry Shepard, Sherry Shepard?
Yeah.
She was in the workshop. There was like 40 people there. And we took a break, and she said to me, why are you self-deprecating? We don't really believe you. Why are you doing that? And I'm like, shit, she's taking my props away. That was working for me. I can be funny in self-deprecating. And so I stopped doing that. And it really changed something. It was scary.
Right, because you can't say that thing that you were going to say.
No, but yeah.
That's interesting. And you noticed a change.
Well, yeah, I didn't know it was visible. I think a spidey sense of me knew that I was overusing it.
Right.
Right. And it wasn't real, but I didn't really get my value yet.
Right.
No. And still back then I'm still thinking I'm not smart enough to do this,
right.
But I'm doing it. I mean, I have a full-fledged business,
right.
And I'm a professor at Syracuse. They bring the kids out for 2 semesters to LA.
Yeah.
And I teach. I'm a professor. I talked my way into, yeah.
That's what your book is, How to Talk Your Way Into or Out of Anything is the subtitle.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, but back to acknowledgement. So, Dennis, I see you're so ripe for everything that you have, what you put yourself through, and how you pivot and do things and always create. And you're so kind and you're so inclusive. And you make people feel so much better when you're around. And I just know that is the competitive edge of yours, the way you make people feel. That's why you can wear people down. I get what you
Yeah. Thank you.
I just think you're a joy and a dream to know. I would go into a more extensive acknowledgement, but I don't want you to start crying.
No, I cry all the time. And you know what? Come to think of it, when you said what works for you, what worked for me, I made a conscious decision to try to be really open on this podcast and honest and open. And like, if I cry, let it play. You know, I find things more moving than ever before. And I'm not sure I can cry at the drop of a hat.
So go into acting.
Go into acting. Yeah. I feel like I cry a lot. But yeah, I'm the John Boehner of gay podcasters. Do you remember how I used to always cry at on the Senate floor or whatever? Anyway, that's a deep cut, but yeah.
All right. So theme.
So we come up with the theme.
We came up with the theme.
Yeah. So we came up with a theme when we did it in the workshop, and a theme that I liked, which is similar to yours, which is, do you remember this? Pocket Full of Miracles? I kind of like it. Yeah, I'm into it. I've already Google imaged it and found some fonts that say that for my dream board. I'm that guy. But I remembered some of my past themes. Do you remember I had Healthy, Wealthy, and Guys? Because I wanted to date more. Yeah. I think you might have, did you share that one? I think you liked that one.
I worked with someone today privately because she can't come to any groups. I love her theme so much. And she's a businesswoman. First of all, she's been doing multi-level marketing, Arbonne, for decades, for a couple of, 15 years.
Right.
It's working for her. And she's got a couple of kids. And through Arbonne, she's really learned how to be a businesswoman.
Yeah.
And so she started giving people advice in their own businesses, and it created into a business. I said, who do you have to be to really make this business soar? She said, I have to have confidence. And I said, when did you have it? She goes, I don't know. I sometimes feel like an imposter. Like, who doesn't feel like an imposter?
Right.
Right. And she's a musical theater person.
Right.
Listen to this. You're going to be so proud of me, Dennis.
I love it. Okay. What do you got?
I gave her a theme that she freaked out from. I said, in The Sound of Music, I have confidence in me.
Right.
I have confidence in sunshine.
Yeah.
And she started singing, I have confidence in me. And it made her laugh. It made her so happy. Like, she doesn't need a structure or strategy theme.
Right.
She needs to lighten it up and be able to, when she's stuck in a moment, she can, I have confidence in.
Right.
And I just got an email from her while we were sitting here. I worked with her this morning. She said, I just made the scariest call, and I was singing when they answered the phone.
Oh, that's cool. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. So for everybody, that's the
completion.
And that's how much fun you have when you work with us.
I love it. And now, because of Zoom and everything, you work with groups remotely throughout the year, not just the year-end thing. So talk about that a little bit.
Well, I had groups in my house, but when the pandemic happened, I put it out there. People started working with me online. So I would have people from LA, Atlanta, New York, Vancouver, Toronto, and they all fell in love with each other online, and they're connecting in business together. They're visiting each other. because these groups are once a week.
Right.
And they're coaching, career coaching.
And not just people in the entertainment business, in all kinds of businesses.
No, I mean, it's really any business. And I'm not interested in long stories.
Right. You'll just say like, we get it. Yeah. I saw the documentary recently about your friend, Allie Willis, the songwriter. And we had the filmmaker on this podcast. And she talked about Allie's thing was take your weakness and turn it into a hook. And I always think that's interesting. I've been thinking about that recently in terms of eye-opening concepts. You know, the fact that I've done a lot of stuff that I've had to pivot a lot, maybe I can lean into that as a plus, as opposed to like, you know, reflecting just that didn't work out, so I went this way or that way or this way or that way.
Your hook is your personality. I'm telling you, we're going to work on this.
Oh, we're going to work on this? Stay tuned for this. I have a new idea for the new year, and do you want to hear it? Do you want me to run it by you? Because my listeners may have a thought on this. Okay, so, you know, in the 90s and the 2000s, I did a lot of magazine journalism, interviewed a ton of folks. I have all these cassettes in my house, and I feel like they're a gold mine every time I look at them. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do a YouTube thing where I play my interview from 1993 with Carrie Fisher, and I react live on camera to what we're all hearing. And then I'll go through the whole hour and a half interview and then pick the best moments and cut down a really tight thing where you get the voice of this person that we all love or we all find interesting, and then also some context from me, also some funny asides or whatever, or, you know, little things that, oh, wow, well, she said that then, but look at this. 10 years later, she did exactly what she said or whatever. Just like some perspective. And then have that be a thing. What do you think?
I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I also think that it's another project that you won't make money from.
Yes. I didn't want to say it. I was going to say that. I didn't want to say it because I thought you might jump on my ass and say, oh, yeah.
I wasn't going to tell the truth, but I can't.
No, I know the same thing, but I didn't want to lead with there's no money in it because I thought like maybe you'd say cut it out.
I'll make a deal with you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how you should proceed and make money.
Yeah.
And like talk to people like in a real way that gets them to deliver what you want. You can do. I would love to listen to those tapes.
Yeah.
And it gives you joy.
Yeah.
Everything you do gives you joy.
For sure. Yeah.
Dennis, you're like a gold mine waiting to happen.
Waiting to be discovered underground. I like it. So if people want to learn more about what you do, you have a wonderful website. What's your website?
The Barbara Deutsch Approach.
Love it.
I know. It's not easy to spell Deutsch.
How do you spell it? DEUTSCH? I like it. And you also have fun Instagram posts. They're always little nuggets that are like, oh, that's smart.
Everybody can follow me on Instagram.
Yeah.
Facebook, if you're, in your seventh decade. I'm on TikTok. I post on TikTok
are you on TikTok? I love it. Excellent.
I just post and then I run away from it.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Post and run. Post and run.
You know what I posted just a little minute ago?
What's that?
A picture of me, my first headshot.
Oh, fun. I want to see it. It's on TikTok?
It's on everything.
All the things. I'm going to go and look at that. What is your TikTok or your Instagram handle?
At Barbara Deutsch.
There it is. Fun stuff. Thank you for doing this. And folks.
Is that my Instagram? That could be my Venmo.
That works too. People could just send you money out of the blue for being delightful. That's like my virtual tip jar. I love it. People, if you're listening and you want to shake things up in your life, or you feel stuck or whatever, Barbara's a wonderful person to work with. And she's funny. You'll have fun and you'll grow and it's the best. And you've changed my life. So thank you.
Following me and getting these things I say every day is free.
It's free. Yeah. All right. Here's my final question. Why do you love what you do?
I had my son and daughter-in-law over, and they were finding the flaws in everything in my house, right? you know. And I said, look, I do two things well, two things brilliantly. I love brilliantly, and I coach brilliantly. I can do nothing else. Nothing else. But I know I can make a difference.
I love it. And you coach with love. It's a part, they go together in a way. You feel it.
I do.
Yeah. Oh, and I also want to get a tease in for the upcoming book when we put that out. There are stories about celebrities. There are stories about Frank Sinatra pops up at one point. Like, I'm reading these chapters and I'm just like, wait, what? You never talked about that. Like, what a life. What a life.
I know. I had fun.
And you are fun. You always are up for things. I'm like, do you want to be in this short film with me and Tom Goss? And you're like, when's my call time? Yeah, like, you just show up.
That's my thing. All right.
And you do fun things.
Why not? I'm lucky I'm alive, by the way.
Yeah.
Saying yes to so many things I shouldn't. But
right. But you often get surprised by wonderful things that come your way.
I need a neck job.
Maybe somebody could Venmo you for that.
Okay.
All right. I love you, Barbara. Thank you for doing this. I appreciate it. And thank you for helping me start off my year with some new resolve.
Yeah, baby.
Thanks again to Barbara Deutsch for that wonderful therapy session. No, I don't know what what it was, but I always enjoy all of my time with her. She's helped me so much in my life, and she does workshops over Zoom now, groups. So if you're anywhere in the world and want to benefit from her wisdom and ideas and insights and humor, go to thebarbaradeutschapproach.com and make it happen. All right, so this happened. It's the year-end thing. And I got a PayPal donation in my virtual tip jar, which I really appreciate, from a gentleman named Len K in Chicago. And he just wrote a nice note to me, and it just meant so much to me. And so I'm going to share a little bit of it with you now. He just says nice things that he listens to the podcast during his long walks that he takes. And he says, I have learned so much about your creative and interesting guests while enjoying many chuckles and experiencing a few moist eyes along the way. Moist eyes. Moist eyes are us. Like, that's a thing. Your show has propelled me to reflect on my own crazy path, feeling pride in the accomplishments and feeling less alone about the episodes of lost momentum. Boy, did that resonate. I feel that deeply. And then he says this, and I think it's wonderful. As we look to the start of a new year, let us not dwell on the dark hue of the political landscape and the return of carnival, or worse. Instead, let us be excited for new, perhaps unexpected and fulfilling personal twists and turns. I look forward to continuing to walk with you, and I wish you the very best. Isn't that sweet? I love that. Thank you so much, Len. That really made my day. The other thing that happened yesterday was the screening of Magic Mike XXL at Vidiots on New Year's Eve. And I had gone on 4th of July Eve just because I liked the movie with my friend Danny last year. And it was like Rocky Horror level enthusiasm. So it's a thing now. And so I'm never going to miss it. And so I got an iron-on kit, and I made a shirt for myself. And we had like 6 or 7 of us, and they gave out fake money to throw, and they were using those like money guns to like spray in the air whenever something sexy would happen. And it was just the best time. And here's the thing about that fake money. It looks really real. Like my roommate and I came home with a bunch of it, and it was sitting on the coffee table. And I was like, what's all this money doing? And I was like, oh yeah, that was right. I think it looks really real. But man, there's something about that movie that just makes me feel so good. And good about the world, just good about people, good about myself, and it's just fun. And then you come out and you're like, oh, right, yeah, I live in this world. Okay. But what a treat. Anyway, so Happy New Year. I really don't know what this next year is going to hold. When I was a kid, my siblings had a bunch of 45s that I sort of inherited. And there was a song called In the Year 2025. In the year 2525. Okay, so we're not there yet. So we still have 500 years. Okay. I don't need to worry about the prophecies in that record. Although I can still remember exactly what the label looks like. I think it was Zager and Evans. Is that right? Like, I was like 9 and I knew all of these bands and like the color of the labels and all of it. I was into it. All right. Here's hoping that 2025 is a year that we can all be really into. Before I let you go, I want to give a shout out to Oscar Rosario for mixing the episodes. My theme music is by Mark Daniels for Placement Music. We'll catch you next time on Dennis Anyone. Bye!